What if the one person who could melt a cold man's heart arrived with no beauty, no wealth, and no intention of marrying him at all? The Montana Territory spread wide and white under the hard winter sky of 1882. Wind rolled across the land like a living thing, carrying the bitter cold that made even the strongest ranch hands curl their shoulders against it. But Nathaniel Cross stood on the porch of the Triple Crown Ranch as if winter had no power over him. He was a tall man, steady and unbending, the kind who made people straighten their backs without knowing why. His dark hair carried streaks of silver at the edges, and his sharp eyes held a storm inside them that people tried not to look at too long. At 35, Nathaniel owned more land and cattle than any rancher for miles, yet he lived as if none of it mattered. He never smiled, never entertained guests, and never opened his heart. And he refused every bride. The Cross mansion was grand and polished, glowing with firelight and expensive rugs. But its beauty meant nothing to him. Tonight, like many nights before, he sat behind his heavy desk while another rich father pushed his daughter forward, claiming she was the perfect match. Victoria Peyton curtsied with a practiced smile, her golden curls shining like a storefront display. She wore silk, diamonds, and all the pride money could buy. She spoke gently at first, then, hopefully, then, desperately. Nathaniel barely lifted his eyes from the ledger. Mr. Peyton puffed his chest up like a rooster. My daughter speaks 3 languages, plays piano, and knows how to manage a home of this size. Nathaniel simply said, I'm sure she does. Silence stretched across the room like a wire pulled too tight. The girl's smile faltered. Her father's voice sharpened. She would make an excellent wife. Nathaniel finally looked up, cold as steel. And what makes you think I'm in the market for one? Those words crushed the father's pride. The girl's face fell, but Nathaniel didn't look away. He stood from his chair, tall and unmoved. My home runs fine, he said, and I have no plans to bring a child into a world that thinks love can be bought. When the Peytons stormed out, the mansion felt even colder. For 3 years, wealthy families sent daughters to him, convinced they could win him over. Margaret Thornfield fainted at the sight of a branding iron. Catherine Westbrook demanded servants for every tiny task. Elizabeth Cartwright asked about his will before she asked about his day. Every one of them walked away rejected. Outside, the ranch hands watched the Peyton carriage roll down the snowy road. That's the 15th this month, Miguel said. Tom snorted. Boss sends them home faster than a dust storm blows out a lantern. Their voices carried worry beneath the jokes. They respected Nathaniel, they trusted him. But they also knew a man could be rich in cattle and still starve in his heart. Nathaniel stood at his window long after the lights dimmed. Snow drifted past the glass, soft and slow. He stared across the wide land he had built with his own hands. Years of hard labor had carved strength into him, but also loneliness. His house was large, but every corner echoed with the same question. Is this all there is? Quote, he remembered Catherine Farweather, the woman he once loved, the one who left him for a richer man. Since then, he built walls so thick, not even warmth could pass through. Maybe Harold Peyton was right. Maybe Nathaniel would die alone. Morning came quiet and pale. Nathaniel dressed with the same simple routine he'd kept since the days he lived in a shack. Old flannel shirt, worn boots, belt with a silver buckle from his late father. The housekeeper slept upstairs. The cook would not arrive for another hour. Nathaniel liked the silence. He made his own coffee in the old cast-iron pot he had carried since his earliest days. Bitter, honest, no different from him. He stepped onto the porch with his cup in hand. Snow lay untouched on the ground. The ranch stretched wide under the fading stars. Then he heard hoofbeats. He braced himself. Another father. Another daughter. Another disappointment. But what he saw stopped him short. A single rider approached, not a wagon full of silken perfume. No velvet coats, no jingling jewelry, no hopeful smiles forced into place. Just a small figure on a tired paint horse. The rider dismounted at the gate with quiet grace, tying the reins with steady hands. No rushing, no theatrics. The coat she wore was old but clean. Her boots were scuffed. Her hat shaded her face, but Nathaniel sensed something unusual. Respect, not desperation. She walked toward him, step by steady step. And when she lifted her head, he realized she was young, perhaps 25. Her face was simple, sun-touched, shaped by work rather than luxury. Her eyes were brown, soft and honest, not shining with plans, not pretending. She stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Mr. Cross," she said. Her voice was gentle but sure. "My name is Sarah Mitchell. I've come to speak with you if you have a moment." Nathaniel didn't answer at first. He studied her face, searching for the usual signs of schemes or expectations. There were none. "Miss Mitchell," he said quietly, "you know why most young women come here." Quote, she gave a small smile, not shy, not bold, just real. "I imagine they come hoping to marry you, but that's not why I'm here." Those words struck him harder than he expected. In 3 years, no woman had ever spoken so plainly. "Then why are you here?" he asked, voice low. Sarah held his gaze. Her eyes were warm but carried weight, like someone who had lived a life full of storms. "Because I heard things about you," she said. "Things that made me think you might understand what it means to be truly alone." The wind paused. So did Nathaniel's breath. "And," she added, softer now, "I came to offer you something that no one else seems to think you need." "What's that?" he whispered. "Understanding." The word shook something deep inside him, something frozen for years. For once, Nathaniel Cross, rich, feared, untouchable, did not know what to say as the quiet young woman stood before him in the winter morning. Nathaniel opened the door wider, unsure why he did it, only knowing that sending Sarah away felt wrong. She stepped inside with quiet steps, her coat dusted with snow, the warm air from the fire wrapped around them, soft and steady, and for the first time in years the big house did not feel so empty. Nathaniel poured her a cup of coffee. His hands were steady on the outside, but inside something felt strange, something he hadn't felt since he was young. Curiosity, nerves, maybe even hope. Sarah held the warm tin cup between her fingers. She looked around the kitchen, simple and clean, not shiny like the big dining room rich families showed off. She smiled a little. "This feels lived in," she said. "It feels real." No fancy lady had ever said anything like that before. Nathaniel leaned against the counter. "You said you wanted to talk. I'm listening." Sarah took a slow breath as if pulling her thoughts together. "I came because I've been through things that changed me," she said, "and I thought maybe you'd understand." Nathaniel stayed silent. He didn't push, didn't question. Something in her voice told him not to rush her. "I was married once," she said. Nathaniel's jaw tightened, not from anger but from the way her voice softened. There was pain in it. Old pain. Deep pain. "His name was David," she went on. "We ran a small farm. We were happy at first. We had dreams. We believed we could build a life with our own hands." She paused, her eyes drifting toward the window as if she were watching memories play out in the snow. "Then the drought came," she said. "Everything died. The crops, the cattle, the land, and something inside David died with it." Nathaniel didn't move. He knew too well how hard times could change a man. Sarah set her coffee down, her hands shaking ever so slightly. "He started drinking. Then he started blaming me. Said I was cursed. Said I ruined everything. And when he drank too much," she rolled up her sleeve. A long scar ran from her wrist to her elbow. Nathaniel felt something hot rise inside him, something protective and fierce. "He did that to you?" She nodded. "And worse. He wasn't always a bad man, but hardship can turn a good man cruel." For a moment, neither spoke. The fire cracked softly behind them. "How did it end?" Nathaniel asked gently. "He died," Sarah said simply. "Fell off his horse while drunk, broke his neck." Nathaniel lowered his head. "I'm sorry." "It's all right to say it," she replied. "Most days I still feel sorry myself, not because he died, but because I lived so long thinking I deserved what he did to me." Nathaniel's breath caught. Those words hit him in a place he didn't show anyone. Sarah looked up at him, That's the thing about loneliness, Mr. Cross. It convinces you that no one will ever stay. It makes you believe you're not worth staying for. Nathaniel swallowed hard. I understand more than you know. Sarah stepped closer. Her eyes were gentle, but unflinching. Tell me. Nathaniel had not told this story in over a decade. He didn't like remembering it, didn't like how it made him feel like a boy again, instead of the strong man he had forced himself to become. But Sarah waited without pressure, without judgment, without any sign that she wanted anything from him. Her name was Catherine, he said quietly. I loved her. I thought we'd marry. Sarah nodded for him to go on. I built this ranch for us, he said. Every fence post, every dollar, every long night. I was building a home for her. He took a breath, but she didn't want a life that needed building. She wanted one already finished. Sarah watched him with understanding, not pity. I found her with another man, Nathaniel continued, voice rough. A lawyer from back east. Wealthy, connected, polished. She told me I was a good man, but good wasn't enough. She wanted security, wanted it now, so she left. Quote, he let out a slow breath. After that, I built higher walls, harder ones. Told myself I'd never give anyone the chance to hurt me again. Sarah stepped even closer, just a few feet away now. And did the walls help? No, Nathaniel whispered. They just made me lonely. The truth came out easier than he expected. Maybe because Sarah wasn't smiling to impress him. Maybe because she wasn't pretending to understand him. She really did. It takes strength to protect yourself, Sarah said. But it takes even more strength to open the door again. Quote, Nathaniel studied her face, noticing the softness in her eyes, the tired hope that matched his own. Why me? He asked quietly. Out of everyone you could talk to, why come here? Because, she said, I heard you refused every bride. And I don't think you refused them because you're cold. I think you refused them because none of them were honest with you. None of them saw the man behind the land, the cattle, the money. Her voice lowered. But I do. Those words settled deep inside him, warming a place he thought was frozen forever. What are you looking for, Sarah? He asked. She held his gaze, steady and sure. I'm looking for someone who knows what it feels like to carry hurt and still wake up every day, she said. Someone who understands that trust is slow, that healing takes time, someone who doesn't want perfection, just honesty. Nathaniel felt something crack open inside him, something quiet and long buried. And what if I don't know how to let someone in anymore? He asked. Then we figure it out together, she said softly. One truth at a time. Quote, the room went still. The fire glowed warm behind them. Snow fell softly outside. For the first time in years, Nathaniel didn't feel alone. The fire burned low as morning turned toward afternoon, filling the kitchen with a warm glow that softened everything it touched. Nathaniel had never stood this close to someone who felt so familiar and yet so unexpected. Sarah wasn't dressed in silk, didn't speak with polished charm, didn't act like she wanted a place in his mansion. She simply stood beside him like a person who saw the truth and didn't look away. Nathaniel set his empty cup on the counter. Why did you really come here today, Sarah? Not the first reason, the real one. She took a slow breath, the kind a person takes before an important truth. Because I can't go back to living small, she said. I can't go back to a life where I pretend I don't feel broken inside. I needed someone else who understands that feeling. Someone who's been hurt in different ways, but hurt all the same. Nathaniel nodded. Her honesty was like fresh air, cold and sharp, but deeply needed. And because, she added softly, I heard people talk about you. They said you were cold, ruthless, hard. But loneliness has a sound, Mr. Cross. I know it. I've lived with it for years. When I heard that you refused every bride, I didn't hear pride. I heard emptiness. Nathaniel's chest tightened. You're not wrong. Sarah looked up at him, her brown eyes warm like the softest part of a fire. I didn't come to fill your emptiness, she said, and I don't expect you to fill mine. I came because I wondered if maybe, just maybe, we didn't have to carry it alone. He drew in a slow breath. I don't know how to do this. That's all right, she said gently. "Neither do I." They stood in quiet for a long moment, listening to the wind outside the walls. When Sarah lifted her hands to warm them by the stove, Nathaniel noticed the small tremble in her fingers. He stepped closer without thinking. "You're cold," he said softly. "A little," she admitted, though her voice didn't complain. He reached for a wool blanket draped across a chair and wrapped it around her shoulders. She held it closed with both hands, looking up at him with a surprise that felt almost tender. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathaniel cleared his throat, his voice roughened by feelings he wasn't used to. "You said you wanted to start with the truth," he said. "So here's mine. I'm tired. I'm tired of sleeping in a big empty house. I'm tired of pretending that the past didn't hurt me. I'm tired of being strong because I don't know any other way to be." Sarah listened closely. "Then maybe we don't have to be strong today," she said. "Maybe today we just be honest." Nathaniel looked at her, really looked, at the quiet strength in her posture, at the softness in her eyes, at the tired courage that lived in her voice. This woman didn't want money, didn't want his land, didn't want a title. She just wanted him to stop pretending he didn't feel anything. "Do you want to sit?" he asked. She smiled. "Only if you sit with me." They sat at the wooden table, Nathaniel in his usual chair, Sarah across from him with her hands folded in the blanket. The distance between them was small, but filled with something new, something slow, something gentle. Nathaniel spoke first. "I haven't told anyone about Catherine in years." "And I haven't told anyone about David," she replied. "Why me?" he asked. Her voice was soft but sure. "Because your eyes look like mine did, like someone who finally understands there's no pride in carrying pain alone." Nathaniel felt those words settle deep. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "You don't have to decide anything today. I'm not here to ask for a place in your home or your life. I just came to meet the man people don't understand, and I'm glad I did." Nathaniel took a slow breath. "I am too." They both sat still, letting the moment sink in. Nathaniel felt something lifting from his shoulders, something he had carried for so long he forgot what it felt like not to hold it. "I'd like to see you again," he said quietly. Sarah's eyes softened. "I'd like that too." "I don't know where this goes," he added. "You don't have to," she said. "Some steps you take without knowing the whole road." Quote. Nathaniel looked at her hand resting on the table. For years he had avoided touching anyone, afraid of what it meant, afraid of what it opened. But now he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers slid into his like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her hand was small, warm and steady, not trembling from fear, not reaching for something she wanted to take, just meeting him halfway. Nathaniel swallowed. "Sarah, are you sure?" Quote. She nodded. "I'm sure of this. Two people can heal together, even if they're still a little broken." Outside, the snow drifted down in soft, slow flakes. The ranch hands moved across the yard, unaware of the shift happening inside the big house. A shift gentle enough to miss, but strong enough to change everything. Nathaniel stood, still holding her hand. "Let me show you the ranch," he said. "Not the land people admire, the land I actually love." Sarah stood too. "I'd like that." He opened the door for her, and they stepped into the cold together. The world outside was wide and white, but for the first time in years, Nathaniel didn't feel swallowed by it. Sarah walked beside him, not behind him, not ahead of him, beside him, boots crunching in the snow. The rich, cold cowboy who refused every bride had finally found something real. Not a woman who wanted his wealth, a woman who understood his wounds, and a quiet young woman who approached his gate had opened a door inside him he thought was frozen forever. Their footsteps moved side by side toward the open land, toward something fragile and honest, something new and warm, something that felt a lot like hope.